Hello guys, it's Striker. Welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be checking out Hitman 3 PS5 versus Xbox Series S and X comparison on the Xbox Advantage and Xbox Advantage at 4K. So we're going to check this video, man. This is by Digital Foundry, man. So there we go. Check out the other Hitman videos I've made. I just will react to the ending of it. So there we go. Check that one out and subscribe to the channel if you're new, man. Hit that like button. And let me know what you think about the video in general, and let me know what you think is better. And with that, here we go.
Completing the Hitman trilogy with a third and final entry, IO Interactive kicks off the
IO
new year with
Interactive
Hitman 3.
fantastic
It adds
job,
to the
man.
growing suite of detail-rich levels already in Hitman's front-end menu, almost like an expansion, where, conveniently, we can access every area from the first two games as well. But the most exciting part here, Hitman 3 lands with next-gen support. The entire package gets updated for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, improved settings, resolutions, frame rates, and loading times being the key areas. It really can't be overstated how huge it is to now have 60 FPS as standard on these new consoles by
60
default.
frames per
But today,
second
to focus
as
on how
standard, bro.
PS5,
Doesn't
S,
get
and
better
X
than that.
all stack up to each other, I've invited to the party my good friend and colleague, John Linneman. How's it going?
Welcome to the
Hey
party.
Tom, it's going pretty good. I've also been playing some Hitman, doing a different sort of video, focusing more on the upgrades from both last-gen consoles as well as the upgrades from the previous game to Hitman 3, using the levels viewed through Hitman 3. But I think today we're just going to talk the nuts and bolts about the performance you can expect on all of the new consoles.
Yeah,
The game looks
surface
gorgeous,
level,
though, I
just
ain't gonna
what to
lie.
expect from all three. And I've got to say, it's been a real pleasure playing this and having 60 FPS unlocked as standard. There are no modes, toggles here, or anything of that sort. It's just you get what you get. So yeah, let's dig right into it with, I guess, do you want to start with the Xbox consoles there?
Sure. So yeah, the resolution then, like you say, in previous Hitman games, they actually had modes. Like you could switch to, like, say, the 4K mode on Xbox One X, but the frame rate would be
IO Interactive probably don't get enough credit, man.
Yeah.
Where here
So they're making the
just do away
James
with that,
Bond
and
games
Series
next.
X
That's
gets
gonna
a
be
full
dope.
native
Look at
4K,
freaking Hong Kong, man.
resolution at 60 frames per second.
Which is awesome.
That's right, absolutely. It looks unbelievably sharp. They have their nice TAA in effect here. It's one of the cleanest games I think I've seen in a long time.
Damn!
So it looks gorgeous. And then
I want them to
predictably,
make a
guess,
racing
Series
game.
S comes in at 1080p 60, quarter res of the Series
Yo,
X.
they're pushing
but good
everything
enough,
to the
I'd say.
limit in
Yeah,
this.
I'd say. Also, while we're talking about the Series S and X, worth saying there are some settings differences as well. I put together a quick kind of comparison between these two. And yeah, there's a big difference in texture quality between the
How
two.
about
So the S gets high textures while the Series X gets ultra textures. You can see that pretty much everywhere across the world. Even like railings, like here, we can get a view of a much higher quality asset, as well as obviously being viewed through a
Like, who
higher
just stop and
resolution
look at the
window.
railings?
So
That's just
that's a
crazy.
huge plus. And of course, that translates to the PS5 version, which in terms of overall resolution, that's gunning for 3200 by 1800. And obviously it gets 60 FPS, and it also has this ultra preset texture, the same as Series X. So it's a big win for those two.
Yeah, but I would say, this is actually really good news. I know Xbox fans have been waiting for a game to come along like this, and here it is. So we have higher resolution on Series X versus the PS5. But they both have the same textures, of course. So what did you find? I think shadow quality actually was a little bit different. Because I noticed that the Series X has higher resolution shadows compared to PS5 and Series S as well.
Yeah, they kind of taper down. They go for a different preset on each
Wow.
one. So that would be Series X with high shadows, PS5 at medium shadows, and then Series S at low. I've done some kind of very close-up shots to show.
You can't really tell the difference, man, but
it can be quite
Xbox does
marginal
look
at
a little bit
distance,
better.
and up close, you can pick it out
with the
There's
lightning and
definitely
the shadows and all that
improvement.
stuff. Definitely you
I
can see it.
think
But
that
you
is,
gotta look. You gotta really
it's
look.
worthwhile having on Series X, but it doesn't make a visibly huge difference compared to PS5.
Yeah, I guess the point here is that the game actually looks really good on all platforms,
Yeah.
I would say. Even on Series S at 1080p, it's a very clean looking game. And it sort of scales nicely from that up through the Series X. But still, it's clearly a cross-gen game, as I'll get into when comparing against last-gen systems. But it's a very attractive game. Like, it's just...
Yo, look at Hong Kong, bro. That is just beautiful, man.
That I've always appreciated a lot.
That is just stunning.
Yeah, they've done a great job translating this over.
Yo,
to
007 gonna look ridiculous, man. With the amount of time they're gonna spend on it.
They've got the massive NPC counts we've always known the series to have, and in terms of settings, there's literally nothing else between them. I mean, it's 8 times anisotropic filtering on every console, a next-gen console. There's stuff like screen space reflections on every console to similar setting.
Okay, so that's good then. So the game looks great. Xbox Series X has the advantage. PS5 below that, and then
don't do it like that.
S at the bottom. But then I guess performance is obviously the next big thing to discuss here. I gotta say, I spent most of my time playing it on Series X and some on PS5, and the thing I noticed really here is that the frame rate stability is significantly better than it ever was on last generation consoles. It's not perfect, as we'll see, but it's close. Really close in some cases.
So far, it's been just impeccable. Like, I can't really fault it on the consoles, though there are exceptions. Series S first, I guess. Let's just run through them in order of, like, the 1080p version here. There's just barely a drop on that whole opening level with the massive party.
I would say, especially because this footage of your frame rate analysis here I'm seeing, you're just like running guns a-blazing.
Yes. Which
is uncharacteristic of 47, but I like it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. The whole level is a bit of a playground, and yeah, you're right. We're meant to carefully pick through it and disguise ourselves and play it like a puzzle almost, but yeah, for the sake of just trying to push the engine, the Glacier engine, let's try and get some action going. Yeah, even then, I mean, Series S, absolutely flawless. I tried pretty much all the new levels. There's the
this dude playing this like Max Payne or Call of Duty, man.
Countryside, and yeah, it just escalates.
Damn, don't do it like that, bro.
Anything really to stress it. There is one, which we've discussed before, between us, which is the Mendoza level.
Oh, yes. Mendoza. Sorry, I can't resist that.
This is the one, basically. If you jump into the periphery of the party, you get this kind of long field of this beautiful field, and you do get drops there.
Oh yeah, I see. I noticed this. Yep.
So Series X has kind of
that makes sense. It's kind of dropped because of the grass and the flowers and all that.
Which, to be honest, is pretty good going, and I believe it is a fixed 1080p as well. IO Interactive haven't really announced a dynamic element to the resolution, but in theory, that might have helped.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, by and large, the frame rate seems to be locked 60, except for like very rare instances such as this, but I don't think they've actually implemented dynamic resolution scaling in their engine. I wouldn't say drop the resolution just for these small situations where it does dip. It wouldn't be worth it. But DRS would save the day.
Yeah, absolutely. One other little exception was this little opener to the Miami level where it just drops.
Which is a Hitman 2 map, by the way.
Yes. And I've noticed in this opener there's all the camera cuts which kind of tee up a little drop, which isn't such a big issue in the newer levels. Anyway, just an aside, the actual level here runs perfectly. Again, all the old levels seem to just play so smoothly, there isn't an issue. So let's move on to the Series X next. Obviously 4 times boost in overall pixel counts, and I've got to say, just as you've mentioned, I'm really impressed by how this plays. It's mostly just a perfectly locked 60. No issues whatsoever.
Bro, this game is
which again was
awesome.
Definitely not the case on the last gen Hitman games. And I think in those cases they were probably bumping up against CPU limitations with all the different AI characters and the crowd system. So obviously with the new architecture in here, it sort of powers through those bottlenecks. Yeah, in most situations, it's a very, very stable 60 frames per second, which is just awesome to see, especially at native 4K. But unfortunately, I think you also did test that same field, which is also the only place I noticed any slowdown at all.
Yeah, right. In fact, the moment that kind of tipped me off that things weren't 100% smooth here was, running to the loft of this building, you get a sniper rifle. And when you scope and shoot, a lot of alpha kind of explodes in front of the screen, and that, as a theory, it seems to conflict with the high resolution. And it is just a noticeable but short drop for these moments. And then of course you go to the field itself, and yeah, it's kind of similar to Series S in that it's between 50, 60 FPS.
So it's just probably the GPU's getting slightly bottlenecked here, just with all that alpha foliage right up there against the camera, running in native 4K. But again, like with Series S, I don't think it would be worth sacrificing resolution just to clean up this area. You know, maybe they could have adjusted the resolution on a per map basis, maybe, like just for Mendoza, drop it a little bit, or, you know, dynamic resolution scaling. But again, really, I played through just about every mission in this game so far, and this was literally the only time in the entire run of play where I ran into any performance issues, so I wouldn't say it's anything to worry about.
So next up, of course, is the PS5 version, and you guessed it, it's absolutely perfect again in all those other levels, and you know, you can run through the whole game without any issue. I've tried again to push it with combat, but of course, if we're to skip ahead again to that
this dude's all gone blazing, man.
Which seems to be the stress test, surprisingly, it's not an issue. On PS5 and PS5 alone, there's no drops whatsoever on that level. It just sort of flies through it without any issue.
So they're basically testing what we had said, where it's like lowering the resolution might be enough to clean up the slowdown, and because this runs at 1800p, it's just enough where you don't run into these issues. So you kind of have that trade-off. Do you want slowdown in Mendoza with native 4K, or do you want a lower resolution at 1800p with no slowdown? I mean, what do you think, Tom?
I loved the crispness of the Series X version, and I
Look
didn't
at
notice
that,
the drops
man,
often
the
enough to say
graphics.
that it really got my enjoyment of the game.
I wanted
you know
it to make an open world game. I know open world game will be like that, but a racing game is dope.
It looks very clean on PS5, don't get me wrong, but like normally native 4K I think is kind of a waste, but specifically with this game's art style, it actually is rather beneficial, and the game just benefits from that extreme crispness. And you know,
they didn't see him
as well if you play it on a 1080p screen, whereas if you play it on a 4K screen, it is pretty blurry actually. But yeah, you know, I don't think that you can kind of see the pros and cons here right now between both versions, or all three versions, and I think they all kind of work out to be pretty awesome in their own right.
So overall, I think it's a pretty neat package regardless of which next-gen console you get it on. And you know what, as a kind of cross-gen entry in the Hitman series, this is a really cool, you know, way to show off a few benefits of running on newer hardware. Nothing too wild, but it's a really good use of the hardware. 4K support and 60 FPS being the kind of keys here.
Alright.
Oh, and as an aside, there is a point on loading times. I think you're going to go into it in more detail with your analysis, John, but the comparison between the three next-gen consoles shows pretty much similar results. A split-second difference, really. The PS5 comes in first in pretty much every case, but it's by a split second.
So PS5 is load
Series
faster.
X coming in second and Series S in third. But all of them, again, like, this is one of the big benefits of the next-gen versions, is just having this sub 10 second loading time from every level, which is obviously a huge deal for a game like Hitman.
Yeah, so good job to IO Interactive. It's definitely the smoothest, cleanest version we've had of Hitman running on consoles to date, so great stuff.
Alright, well, thank you so much, John, for joining me for this one.
No problem.
And I look forward to your full kind of cross-gen analysis when we get...
So that was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed that video, man. Hit that like button if you did. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a like, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about my thoughts on the game and the video in general, man. Really appreciate you guys for watching this video and staying till the end. Really, man. Really appreciate that, man. But with that, we out of here. Peace.